So LeBron and AD have some new contracts with the Lakers. LeBron's deal goes until the end of 2023. AD's is definitely after 2024, maybe after 25. He's got an early termination option for that season. And we assume they're both going to be awesome. I mean, AD definitely will. LeBron, he is 36, but if you didn't know that, you'd think he was 29. Except for his hair, of course. We'll see if LeBron ends up being bald by the time this contract is over. But I think we can assume that the Lakers are probably going to extend LeBron and AD. I mean, I know there's talk about LeBron's son and how he's eligible for the NBA when LeBron becomes a free agent. I mean, we'll see if he's good enough to make the league and all that stuff. I mean, is it crazy to believe that LeBron extends with the Lakers at 38 years old and AD extends at 32 or whatever the exact ages are? No, I think it's pretty fair to expect at this moment. Things are going well. Is LeBron going to have a better opportunity than playing with 32-year-old Anthony Davis when it's time for his next extension? Probably not. Unless LeBron's going to retire at the end of this. I guess that's a possibility, but it seems like LeBron's going to pull a Tom Brady and play until he's like 45. So I think these two are going to still be really good. And I think the next things to think about are, number one, what teams in the West can we project as real contenders with the Lakers over the next few years? And also, what type of opportunities will the Lakers have to get a third star? I mean, if we think first about just other teams in the West, I got to be honest, it's tough to project Golden State as real contenders moving forward. I think Draymond is declining. They're locked into the Wiggins deal. Wiseman could end up being really good, but there's reason to believe he's going to have some trouble. I mean, nobody thinks he's an awesome defensive player. Everybody says he's kind of raw on offense, so we'll see with him. Now, the Warriors do have the Wolves pick. They could hit a home run with that, whether it's in a trade or the draft. The Clippers could either be right there with the Lakers or not in the picture at all, depending on how this season goes. I think Jamal Murray is going to be better moving forward. I don't think he's going to be the 17-point guy anymore, but I still feel like Michael Porter Jr. is the swing piece for Denver, and I mean, offensively, yeah, there's reason to believe MPJ can give you 20-plus points a game. With the Rockets, I mean, they would need James Harden to stay, and they would have to find some second star, whether that's John Wall being that guy or Christian Wood being that guy or something else. They have gotten themselves a few extra draft picks, so that's nice. With OKC, I mean, maybe. I mean, if OKC's really bad this year, they pick Cade Cunningham, they make a trade for a star some point during these two's contracts. Maybe the Thunder could be back in like the tail end of Anthony Davis's contract or something. I think with Dallas, for me, it's Porzingis. I'm just fearful that Porzingis is never going to be healthy and Luka's never really going to have that number 2 guy. And I mean, I think Luka's good enough to drag Dallas to some second round and maybe even some conference finals appearances. But without that second star, I just don't know if Dallas is really going to be a contender like the Lakers will be with LeBron and AD. Could Phoenix be a team that's a real contender if we fast forward 2 seasons? I mean, it depends on if Chris Paul can hold up and if DeAndre Ayton can go to that next level. If Zion is healthy and ends up being what we think he can be on top of Ingram and him improving and the Pelicans taking advantage of a lot of the draft picks they have moving forward between the Lakers and the Bucks, I think they could be contenders if we fast forward a few years. The Grizzlies, if Ja Morant is really going to be a top 10 guy, then okay. So we'll see. But I don't think there's an obvious team that you can look at and be like, that's the team that's going to challenge the Lakers through LeBron and AD's contracts, but it's safe to say it's going to happen. There's always somebody. I should mention the T-Wolves. I mean, Towns on offense is certainly good enough to be a top whatever guy. D'Lo would have to get better. Edwards would have to check all of the kind of iffy boxes right now between his work ethic and his consistency and those kind of things. So we'll see with that one. Now, the next thing to think about is, could the Lakers actually go for a third star at some point? I mean, technically, they could actually do it next offseason if they stripped everything away except for LeBron and AD. And, you know, they didn't bring back Schroeder. They traded KCP into a team with cap space. Montrez declines his player option. They don't bring back Kuzma or Caruso or whoever. then they could get a guy who has less than 10 years of experience, because when you have 10 plus years, you get 35% of the cap for a max deal. The Lakers couldn't afford that, but they could afford somebody who's played 7 to 9 years, which is 30% of the cap. We got the number stuff out of the way. The gist is they'd have to go through a lot of hurdles to get somebody this offseason. At least a max contract guy. I think they could still be in line for their mid-level. I assume Montrez is going to decline his player option. Schroeder probably wants to get a little bit more than his $15 million. We'll see how good he is for the Lakers if they want to hold on to him. Maybe he could be a sign and trade to somebody else. And Kuzma's extension, we'll see. Kuzma's cap hold is about $9 million. I think the goal is just to have your mid-level if you're the Lakers. Like, if you can get your full mid-level, which is going to be $9 million or whatever, that would be good. Is it possible that Montrez could decline his player option and the Lakers could give him a bigger contract with bird rights? Yeah, maybe. Maybe Montrez is a long-term Laker guy. We'll have to see. But if they wanted to go for a max free agent, then at some offseason they're going to have to basically be nothing but LeBron and AD and then hope to sign the third guy. If we think about trades the Lakers could make, I mean, Schroeder and Montrez are trade assets. Whether they would get moved this year or down the road, we'd have to see. I don't think the Lakers are looking to trade them, but you never know how things are going to go in the NBA. There's Kuzma's extension. Maybe they could look to move him. Maybe somebody else would really value Kuzma. When you look at the Lakers' draft pick situation, it's not great for making moves, as we know, but they got Anthony Davis, so you'll take it. They actually can move their picks starting in the mid-2020s now. Whether they would want to is a whole different conversation. Now, they are still going to have the options of moving some of these picks, whether it's on draft night or you select the guy and then trade him, however you can actually do it. But they are going to have their pick this year. In 2022, they will not. 2023, the Pelicans can swap with them. So basically, the Lakers are never going to be able to put multiple picks in a move unless they want to trade picks that are way out in the future. So that's just kind of how they have to operate. Could they perhaps get picks in some way? Again, potentially Schroeder, Montrez, maybe KCP. I mean, his contract is a pretty good move for a different team. It's non-guaranteed in 2023, so I mean, some team could look at that as a pretty good asset, but as far as what the Lakers would be getting back, we'd have to see, and there's reason to want to hold on to KCP. He's been pretty all right for him. Could you get a pick for Kuzma? Maybe. We'd have to see. I think Kuzma would have to make a bit more of a jump this season. I think, to me, the next move the Lakers can make would be trading a first, whether it's after draft night or potentially moving their 2026 first or 2027 first to a team with KCP's contract, which is basically a one-year deal because of the non-guaranteed option, and pairing that up with some of their smaller contracts to get somebody who makes maybe $18 million or something. That's if they were really desperate to do it, which I don't think they have to be desperate with moves right now. So yeah, they do still have some decisions to make, and again, it is possible with the way they've structured these deals that they could pick one offseason and be like, all right, this is the offseason, everybody's gone but LeBron and AD, let's go get our third max guy. So we'll see what they want to do. They're still paying Luol Deng until next year, so that meme is still got a decent shelf life on it. And yeah, and again, throughout all this happening, LeBron is a robot, and Anthony Davis is probably going to age really well. And even then, he's only going to be 32 when this contract is over. So yeah, it's good stuff for the Lakers.